Today I am going to tell you a little bit about McCarthyism and the fear in the period of time during the 50s and how one man actually used that to his advantage. Think about the World War, the Second World War. The USA and the Soviet Union were actually allies, and they fought to, side by side, to defeat the Nazis. But at the end of that, the Cold War started, and they actually became, sort of mortal enemies. They were very suspicious of one another, and of course there were some very disturbing events that caused that, but I won't dig into that any further. There was this big fear actually about the communists infiltrating in their society and taking over their country, and that was actually called the Red Scare. As you can see here, it was actually living among the common people. They actually told each other, if you encountered one, you should do this, you should do that. They were afraid that they infiltrated the government and the media and any other strategic important places that would easily make it happen to influence and manipulate and indoctrinate the Americans. This is the employee loyalty program. Truman signed this in 1947, and it actually made it sort of legal to check employees for their loyalty. So it was actually to root out any communism activities in the government. This program investigated over 3 million employees, and eventually 300 were dismissed as security risks. They could actually lose their jobs for it. But this wasn't even the real high point of it. It wasn't really a witch hunt yet. It was already the fear that this was happening, and this made it legal to search into it. But there was also the House Un-American Activities Committee, and that was already established before the Red Scare. And during the Red Scare, it investigated any allegations of communism activities, and it was actually a very intimidating atmosphere because they called citizens to testify before the Congress, and their tactics actually influenced and contributed to that fear and distrust during this sort of hysteria during the 50s. But there was this one group, the Hollywood 10 they would be later called, and they refused to testify. They refused to answer these questions regarding their possible communism affiliations. But because they didn't answer these questions, they actually went to jail for it. And later on they were put on a Hollywood blacklist, and they lost their jobs, and most of them didn't even get a job after that. So just the allegations of that you were involved with the communists would make sure that you lose your job. Then I will make a short connection now with McCarthyism, because this man is the reason why it is called like that. He is a law school student and first lieutenant in the Second World War, and he was also the youngest member of the Senate. In 1950, he was a member of the Senate, and he held up this list during a women's club in Wheeling, and he stated that on this list he had 205 people who were still working in the State Department, but were also known as members of the Communist Party. So he actually created this witch hunt, and later on when he was asked about it, he also changed that number significantly. And well, even though this document ruined actually a lot of lives and changed history, even though it probably didn't even exist. And that was actually why the witch hunt actually really started. People were losing their jobs, losing their social lives, just because someone said, "I think you are a communist." No proof or whatsoever. And this drawing was just a month after he presented his so-called list, was the first one to mention McCarthyism. So it was at first called the Red Scare, but eventually it was the period of McCarthyism, so the period in the 50s of anti-communism and fear of communism. And Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were a very important example of how bad this witch hunt was, because they went to trial because they were spies for the Soviet Union, and they actually were executed for it. But in 1954, the McCarthy hearings were held. McCarthy wanted to investigate the army, but the army didn't take that lightly. So they had this council, the Army Council Joseph Welch, and on day 30 of these trials, he said to McCarthy's counsel, John Roy Cohn, like, if you have a list, then tell the FBI about it. Tell it tomorrow, or we pause it here. First the list, then we go further. But McCarthy didn't want to do that, and he challenged it by saying, Welch, first look into Fred Fisher, your own employee. He actually insinuated that he worked with the communists, but Welch already did that, and he already knew about it, and he knew it was just a fine guy. So he was just done with his allegations and making his weird suspicions about it, and he actually said, let's not assassinate this lad any further, Senator, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency? And these words were actually the end of McCarthy. His whole being a star, actually, it died like that. His whole popularity was poof gone. Because people actually started to realize, yeah, he's right. He doesn't even have any proof. What are we doing now? So that was actually the end of the McCarthyism. And people weren't really that frightened anymore. But then I do have this question. McCarthy is a known demagogue, a leader who gains popularity in a democracy by exploiting emotions, prejudice, and ignorance to arouse an audience, whipping up the passions of the crowd, and shutting down a reasoned deliberation. Can you think of anyone who could be considered also a demagogue?
A lot.
Bingo.
Ooh.
That was one.
Oh, sorry?
Oh, I thought you already mentioned one. Oh, who said?
Like Hitler or Mao?
Hitler, yes. Yeah. And I thought I heard some other name.
Trump.
Yes, Trump.
Stalin.
Yes, also. And maybe one in here in the Netherlands could be called a demagogue.
Geetje. Oh, dit is dus van...
Yeah, these people can also be in these category of demagogues.
Ook gewoon geen erbij.